I've shot birth, I've shot funerals, but nothing prepared me to photograph people clapping while a man bled out in front of them, like it was part of the show. There were no effects or some stunt team. I saw blades cutting through a body going limp under this weird gold light. His skin split like paper, his voice cracked, and they smiled through every second of it. They told me it was a rebranding ritual, a cleansing, and that he volunteered. But the look in his eyes said something else entirely. And what I found out later showed me the other dark side of this world where we live. Trust me when I say hell is empty. All the demons are now inside of men who occupy high places, smile in our faces, wear stylish clothes like regular humans, but it's all a facade. The devil indeed wears Prada. If you've ever felt like the people we celebrate are hiding something brutal behind the curtain, share this, even if you're scared. And let me ask you, would you speak up if you knew no one would believe you? Someone whispered, "Begin," and everything stopped. There were no lights, no stage, just a white room, a circle of chairs, and a man standing in the middle. He wore a thin gown, like something from a hospital. He was barefoot. His hands were shaking. His lips moved like he was praying, but nothing came out. I lifted my camera. I was there to shoot. But the second I looked through the lens, something felt wrong. The way they moved around him. It wasn't a show. It was real. Careful, more of a predator kind of. One of them held a thick metal rod. The end was hot. Another dipped a cloth into a bowl. The liquid was dark, almost black. I smelled it before I saw it. It wasn't perfume. It smelled like metal, like blood and smoke. They told me it was a ritual, a healing, a new beginning. I thought it would be strange, maybe even fake, something dramatic for the camera. But this wasn't acting. They pressed the rod to his back and he screamed through his teeth, like it hurts too much to speak. And still, no one moved. They just watched, and I kept filming. This wasn't the job I thought it would be. I was told it was a private shoot, a small event for someone trying to start over. High pay, no questions, just show up, stay quiet, and do the work. I didn't know it would be like this. Now I can't stop thinking about it. The sound of his voice, the way the others watched, the way I didn't put the camera down. I came in for a job, but I left with something I can't explain, and I don't think I'll ever be the same. The room was white from end to end. The walls, the floor, even the light above us. Everything was clean, bright, and empty in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt prepared. There were no windows, no markings, nothing hanging on the walls. Just that low electric hum filling the silence, and the soft sound of shoes on polished tile. It reminded me of a hospital, but colder. Not because of temperature, because of how distant it felt from anything human. At the center was a wide circle of chairs. All black, all matching, placed with exact space between them, like someone had measured every inch. No one sat right away. They stood along the walls, calm, silent, waiting for something to begin. They wore long black coats, robes maybe, with collars pulled up high. Most of them had gloves on. A few wore hoods. Their faces weren't fully covered, but they didn't need to be. They weren't trying to hide. They were simply separate, like the rules were different for them. They didn't speak to each other. They didn't look uncomfortable. These weren't strangers brought together for some dramatic event. These were people who'd done this before. You could tell by how still they were, how patient. They weren't shocked when the screaming started. They didn't look away when the blood came. One of them leaned forward like they didn't want to miss a detail. I couldn't tell who they were. Not from where I stood, but it wasn't hard to feel it. The way they moved, the way the room responded to them. These weren't assistants or stylists. These were people with power, the kind of power you don't brag about, the kind that doesn't need to speak out loud. One of them turned toward me for a second. No words, no gesture, just a look that told me exactly what I was, the outsider, the one they brought in to witness it, or to be tested. That was the moment I stopped pretending this was some strange version of art. Whatever this was, they believed in it. And the camera in my hand wasn't for memories. It was for proof. The man in the center hadn't spoken since they brought him in. He stood still, like he'd been told not to move. His gown was open at the back, tied loose like something from a hospital, and his shoulders were trembling in a way that didn't look rehearsed. His head stayed low. His eyes never left the floor. One of them stepped forward, holding something long and silver. I couldn't see it clearly at first, not until the person moved into the light. It was a blade, small, clean, polished to a shine, not the kind you find in a kitchen or a studio. The kind that's made to open skin, not cut objects. No one said a word, no music, no sound except the slow shuffle of feet on tile. The blade touched the man's shoulder, right below the bone. Just a press. No stab. Just enough for the skin to split open like paper, slow and deep. The man didn't scream. Not at first. His whole body locked up, like he was trying to hold it in. Then the sound came out of him. Not loud, but sharp, like something had broken inside his chest. Blood ran down his back in one long line. It hit the floor and spread fast. You could hear it dripping. That's when I felt it. That shift in the room. Like everyone had been waiting for that moment. Some of them leaned forward. One of them closed their eyes and smiled. No one reached for him. No one checked to see if he was okay. This wasn't drama. It wasn't performance. It was part of the process. I kept filming. The smell changed. It was heavier now, closer. Like iron and sweat and something burned. I felt it in my throat. I wanted to cough, but I didn't want to make a sound. Not around them. One of the robed figures stepped forward with the cloth. The same one I'd seen soaked in that dark liquid. They pressed it against the wound, not to stop the bleeding, but to rub it in. The man gasped like it burned. His knees buckled. He dropped, but they didn't let him fall. Two of them caught him, held him still, made sure his face stayed toward the crowd. Someone behind me whispered something. I didn't catch the words, but whatever they said made the others nod. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about the man. Not really. He wasn't the focus. He was the offering. The real purpose of the ritual was for the people watching. I didn't sleep when I got home. I left the gear bag by the door and sat at the table for hours, still in the same clothes, trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. I told myself I needed to review the footage, clean it, back it up, but I think I was just stalling. Around 3 a.m., I finally loaded the files. Everything had saved clean. No errors. No files missing. I started scrubbing through the clips like I always do, checking light, color, exposure. But something felt wrong right away. The angles were off. Some of the shots had depth I didn't remember capturing. A slow pan across the crowd. A close up of the man's eyes while he was bleeding. Even one where the branding rod entered frame just as it touched the skin. Perfectly timed, like a second shooter had planned it. But I was alone. I know I was. I went back and checked the timestamps, the camera model, the metadata. Every single file came from my gear. No overlays. No signs of tampering. But the footage was showing things I didn't see and definitely didn't shoot. One clip stopped me cold. It was only a few seconds long. It showed me from the back. Just a glimpse. A wide shot of the room with me standing there, camera in hand, looking at the man in the circle. I paused it, zoomed in. It was me. Same jacket, same gear, same posture. But there was no mirror in that room. No one else had a phone. No crew, no glass. And yet there I was, caught in my own footage. I checked the file path again. It wasn't imported. It was native. Same folder, same timestamp as the rest. Shot on my camera. I sat still for a long time. The more I watched, the more I realized some of the footage had been seen before I ever opened it. Glitches in the player window. Flickers like interface overlays. Emojis. Thumbs up. Crypto tips showing up on screen like I was scrolling a feed. I closed the laptop and pulled the battery from the camera. I couldn't stop shaking. That footage wasn't just recorded. It was broadcast. Live. And someone out there had been watching it as it happened. I thought about deleting the files. I hovered over them, handshaking on the mouse. But I couldn't do it. Not because I wanted to keep them, but because I wasn't sure deleting them would matter. Something told me they didn't just live on my hard drive anymore. The next morning, I tried to trace where the money came from. The deposit had cleared 2 days before the shoot. A clean wire transfer. No notes. The account belonged to a holding company based in Zurich. I searched the name. It didn't have a website. Just a single office address with no windows and a phone number that never picked up. I looked up the woman who hired me. Her LinkedIn was gone, so was her email. Even the number she used to text me now bounced with a "no longer in service" reply. The more I searched, the more it felt like I was pushing against something too big to see. Everything was clean. Too clean. Like it had been wiped the moment the job ended. But what really stopped me was the footage. One clip had a frame that caught part of the crowd's faces in clearer light. I froze it, zoomed in, enhanced as much as I could. I didn't recognize them at first. But the jawline on one man, the hand tattoo on another, the nose of the woman 3 chairs back. I'd seen these people before, not in person, but on screens, in interviews, on boards, in award shows. They weren't just fans or followers, they were names. Names I wasn't supposed to get close to. The kind of people who donate millions in public and disappear millions in private. Politicians, executives, tech founders. A studio head whose name I'd seen on opening credits. A media face who talks about justice on morning TV. A woman whose charity feeds children by day and, apparently, watches blood spill at night. They weren't there to pretend. They weren't there to keep the secret. They were the secret. The system. And the more I thought about it, the more things started to click. I remembered the news stories that vanished after one report. The faces that stopped appearing without explanation. The influencers who had sudden breakdowns. The artists who left mid-tour, mid-contract, mid-career, with vague statements about mental clarity or personal healing. I started to see a pattern. One that had always been there, but only made sense now that I'd been in the room. The ritual wasn't the scandal. It was the insurance. It was their way of keeping people quiet. You either took part or you watched and said nothing. And either way, you belonged to them now. I thought I'd been hired to shoot a private event. But looking back, I think I was bait. A new set of eyes to test. A lens to feed into their system. Maybe even to see if I'd ask questions or if I'd keep filming. And the worst part is, I did keep filming. Every second of it. I never put the camera down. That's when I started to wonder if I was ever meant to leave with the footage. Or if letting me walk out was part of something else. A test. A trap. Or maybe an invitation. Days passed. Nothing happened. No phone calls. No knocks on the door. No warnings. I didn't hear from anyone. Not the woman who hired me. Not the people who stood in that room. Not even a fake name pretending to check in. I kept waiting for something. A threat. A lawyer, a stranger sitting outside my apartment in a black car. But it never came. Instead, I got paid again. It was more than the original fee. 3 times more. Wired from a different account. No name, no note, just the money. Like a tip or a thank you. I didn't spend it. I didn't even touch it. I just stared at the numbers on my screen and wondered if keeping quiet was part of the job I didn't know I'd agreed to. I tried reaching out. Quietly. A friend in cybersecurity. A contact I trusted in media. I sent them small pieces. Nothing graphic, nothing obvious. Just to see what would happen. Both of them stopped replying within hours. One blocked me. The other deleted their account. I started checking my locks twice a night. Covered the lens on every device. Unplugged the Wi-Fi when I slept. Not because I thought someone would kill me. I don't think they need to. I think they already know I won't say anything that matters. And that's what scares me the most. Because if I was a threat, they would have erased me. Quietly, without mess. I've seen how fast people disappear. I've read the stories. I've seen the gaps left behind. But they didn't do that. They just paid me, walked away, let me live with it. until the box showed up. It was left outside my door early one morning. Plank, metal, no label, no address. Just sitting there like someone had placed it gently and waited for me to open it. I brought it inside with gloves. Didn't want fingerprints on it. Didn't know if mine were already there. Inside was a small hard drive. Same brand I use for backups. And beneath it, a single photograph, printed on matte paper, thick and cold in my hand. It was a shot from that night. One I don't remember taking. The man in the center, mid-scream, his face twisted in pain. The crowd perfectly in focus behind him. And me, just barely visible in the reflection of the blood on the floor. Hand steady, camera raised. There was no note, no threat. Just that image and the drive beside it. I didn't plug it in. I still haven't, because I think I already know what's on it. And I think they wanted me to know they can get close. They don't have to knock. They don't have to speak. They just have to remind me that I never really left the room. And maybe I never will. There are days when I almost forget. I'll be walking to get coffee or checking email, and it feels like things are normal again. But then a noise will catch me off guard, or I'll see the color red in the wrong place, and it all comes back. That white room, that scream, the look on their faces. Sometimes I still check the footage. Not all of it. Just the frames where I can't remember pressing the shutter. I stare at them, trying to figure out how they exist, trying to decide if I ever had control of the camera at all. I keep thinking about the man in the center. How he didn't fight. How he seemed to know what was coming. I wonder what they told him. I wonder if he thought it would save him, or if he knew from the start that no one walks out clean. I never said no. That's what haunts me the most. I stood there and kept filming. Not because I believed in it, because I didn't know what else to do. I told myself I was doing my job. But the truth is, I wanted to be invisible, and they knew that. They knew I'd keep quiet. They knew I wouldn't run, and I think that's exactly why they picked me. Now I live with the silence, and the image, and the question that never leaves me. Not what I saw, not what I filmed, but what they saw in me that made them let me stay. Because once you're part of it, you don't need to be told to keep your mouth shut. You just do. It took me a while to look at the drive. Not because I was afraid of what I'd see, but because I was afraid I'd recognize it. When I finally opened it, the folders were numbered, not labeled with names, just years, going back decades, some before I was even born. Each folder had images, short clips, the same white room, different faces, different victims, but the same layout, the same sick setup, same angles too, always from just behind the curtain, always on a wide lens. Some of the cameras were older than mine, grainy analog. Some were 4K, too sharp, too detailed. And in every clip, someone was holding the camera, never fully in frame, but visible in a mirror, a blood stain, a reflection on the floor. None of them looked the same. Different genders, different builds, but they were all standing where I stood, all quiet, all stilled, all filming. I sat there for hours watching it, frame by frame. I wasn't studying the victims anymore. I was studying the ones behind the lens, because I needed to know if any of them made it out. But none of them ever spoke. None of them ever moved, not even when it ended. And now I wonder if someone else will open a folder one day and find my footage and see me standing there, still, silent, camera raised, just like the rest of them. If you made it this far, then maybe you've seen something I missed. Maybe you felt it too. That feeling like the world's smiling at you, while something darker watches from behind the glass. If you believe this story deserves to be heard, share it. If you've ever seen something you weren't supposed to, tell us in the comments. And if you want more truths they hope we forget, like subscribe and stay close. Because some cameras never stop recording, even after the lights go out.